all our leaders now wait out.
Yeah, he is, and that's a shame for him. It's certainly been a pretty long day already for him. He's not had much luck, and the cars have been running very well, running at the back of the pack, and now it's all over.
Another look at the pass of Marquez earlier. As you say, he did lock up for a long time, so those tyres fairly well flat-spotted, but nonetheless, it was a good move, and he made it safely. And here's the replay. Just watch this as he comes up towards turn 3. Bang! Big hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed. And whoops! And there goes Jimmy Vasser in second place, and he's clambered out of the cockpit there. That is vacant, and he is out of the race. And Tarzan Marquez, we saw him make that great pass. He's just rocked.
Indy Lights race. Here's another stop this afternoon. He's got to keep that engine running. Don't let it stall. All the fuel going on board, and away he goes. Good clean stop. Penske will be pretty happy about that as the Reynard Honda heads down pit lane. He's got virtually the whole pit lane to go through here at the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. And then, as I say, this tricky negotiation of this hairpin left at the top of the pit lane, and then right to perhaps get ahead, or even Castroneves. That we'll find out in the next few laps. Let's see how many more laps these guys can do on the amount of fuel in there. Coming in, no, we don't. He stays out, so does Castroneves. But they are getting a little bottled up here, so whether that was a good choice, I'm not so sure. Just check here, down at turn 1.
And what's interesting is behind these few, Paul Tracy, who was as much as basically running about 4 seconds behind in 5th place. He was about 4 or 4.5 seconds behind the other cars. And Paul Tracy has narrowed that gap considerably, and he's almost on the tail of Juan Montoya. Right behind Tracy is Andretti, and his teammate Fittipaldi, as you see, just makes that pit stop.
Kenny Brett coming in the Shell car as well, so he makes a stop. Castroneves trying to get past Blundell, trying to lap him, does get through at turn 5. Blundell, and off goes that's Shinji Nakano in the car number 5, and it's the fuel, and he gets out safely. New rules now that you've got to stay in that inside lane as you rejoin the pit lane. You can't suddenly launch yourself over the other side. Montoya's still stuck behind Blundell. That's lost him a lot of ground here to Castroneves, and that he will not.
Contenders there, and are all bottled up behind Mark Blundell.
Well, this is good stuff, isn't it? And they're coming up to their main opportunity to overtake him. Not this corner, not the next one, but the one after that. A little bit of ribbon or bit of bunting has got attached to the front of Paul Tracy's car. Let's hope that doesn't affect him as they come out onto the back straight. Now this is the chance for somebody to make a move. Perhaps Montoya will get past Blundell at this point. Heading up, look in the background, you're seeing the other leaders go through. Now Montoya gets down the inside of Blundell, and I think Tracy's made it through safely as well. So, good clean pass, and now Michael Andretti goes past. Montoya really was the one who lost out there because he got held up by Blundell for a little while and has dropped his pit by the look of it. And what a disappointment after the best run of the season from him. And he's definitely made a mistake down there in pit lane. Into the pits come the other leaders, Montoya and Helio Castroneves. Now then, will they come out ahead of De Ferran? Or has De Ferran found some clear space that he's been able to open up the advantage? 50 laps completed here, half distance. And I think Montoya's ahead of Castroneves there. So did they fulfill that car, or did they just put a little less in to get him out ahead?
Yeah, very good point, because they know they're going to make almost certainly going to make 2 pit stops in this race. It's either you take a full tank on now and just a splash later on, or you make 2 pit stops around about the same time. Look at this battle here, as Tracy and Castroneves absolutely wheel to wheel. There's no way you can make it side by side through there. Well, they did.
And I think Tracy was right, in fact. I think he was ahead to the blend line. I think he just crossed the blend line ahead of Castroneves, which means that he's got the position. So Castroneves really lost out a lot there from that pit stop. Now then, we'll have to see where Jimmy Vasser is. Vasser has not stopped yet, I don't think.
No, he hasn't. So he's coming in right now. He's right in front of our booth here. He comes straight into his pit box. He stops right in front of us. The crew goes to work, and there's a good-looking service so far. The wheels are off. The rear wheels are on. The front wheels are on. They're just waiting for the end of the fuel, and there's a good stop by Target Chip Ganassi Racing. They're still waiting for that fuel to go in. Looks like they had a full fuel stop there for Jimmy Vasser. That's an interesting strategy. I'm not so sure it's the right way to go. We'll find out soon enough. Vasser, though, comes back down pit lane at the regulation 50 miles an hour bend.
Battle going on behind Andretti as Tracy trying to get past Michael as they were before, but now they've got Castroneves behind them, so they've gained some time there. There's no doubt about it. Tracy comes out just as Castroneves comes down, the blend line at the end, and I think, you know, that Tracy was just ahead, but look at this.
It doesn't really matter, actually, the blend line there in that situation. It's a question of who can get the power and get ahead, and Tracy went all the way around the outside, drew tremendous move there. The blend line in that situation, Ben, doesn't really play a factor. It's only as regards to where the pace car is as to whether they're coming out of the pit lane.
Well, whatever, Tracy certainly managed to just get it, didn't he? And close stuff, the speed limit ends certainly at that point, so they had the full use of all 900 horsepower at that point. But Tracy just squeezed ahead of Castroneves, and that could prove to be crucial. Memo Gidley is out of his car meanwhile, and we saw him climbing over the back of Max Pappi's car earlier. Look at this, look at Vassar and Montoya here. Vassar versus Montoya. Of course, Vassar's only just come out of the pits. Montoya's already up to speed. Troll and Vassar just touches the wall there, but it didn't seem to slow him down at all. Montoya desperate to try and get past him. Has a look down the inside, but way too far back to make an attempt.
Yeah, and great stuff here. Tremendous racing going on there. And up in front of the course, Gil de Ferran is out in the lead. Second place, Roberto Moreno. We talked about those two Patrick cars. They don't need to make a pit stop for another 4 or 5 or 6 laps probably, so they're making hay while the sun shines. If they can do 4 or 5 or 6 more laps, they will just have to make one more pit stop. But the difference between them and the race leaders is that the Patrick cars will have to make a full pit stop. They'll need a full load of fuel, and most of these guys here are only going to need a splash and go.
That's right. So although Moreno and Fernandez look well placed at the moment, it just depends how the rest of the race goes as to whether they will actually end up finishing up in the top 10. Now on board with Montoya, didn't manage to get past Vassar when it really mattered, when Vassar wasn't fully up to speed. Now that Vassar has got his tyres up to temperature, it's going to be fair. So he's now in third, and now here we are on board with Fernandez, who is behind Juan Montoya. These 3 cars all together, Vassar, Montoya and Fernandez. Not far behind them actually, just looking at the screens, is Michael Andretti, then Paul Tracy. Castroneves all the way down to 8th place, Jeremy. That was a disaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Not quite sure why he would have lost so much time there, Ben. He was certainly in good shape as he came in. I don't know whether there was a problem during a pit stop, but it did have the effect of losing a lot of ground.
Oh, and look at that mistake there from Montoya. I think that was Montoya who went down the escape road. Oh no.
Oh no.
No, it wasn't, sorry. Who is that down there? It looks join the leader's strategy, if you like, at this point, and see where that puts him for the remainder of the race. Comes into the pits, and the Patrick team go to work. 4 tyres on, the full tank of fuel.
10, 5.
And away he goes, but it is full course yellow. It does go full course caution because of the car of D'Amata. They have had to call it, and look at this, Andretti trying to get past Montoya here. And Montoya did lose that place to Fernandez, so I think Montoya did make a mistake. I thought it was Montoya who'd made a mistake. He did make a mistake and dropped a place to Fernandez, and is now under pressure from Michael Andretti. So hopefully we'll get another chance to look at that. Montoya made the mistake, but D'Amata at virtually the same time went off into the tyres. So it was all a little bit confusing to read that one. Montoya still in the race. He's in 4th place, but he's dropped behind Adrian Fernandez. Look at this. Into the pits now comes Michael. Oh no, sorry, Fernandez. Yeah, Fernandez and Michael. Michael Andretti choosing an interesting time to come into the pits.
Both Newman House cars, so they know they have to make another pit stop. They would not be able to make it to the finish, they reckon, without another.
He did this a couple of years ago. He kept stalling it in the pits there, and now he's stalled it at such a crucial time. A lot of the leaders coming in under this yellow flag. That's why we're seeing so many pit lane visits here. Christian Fittipaldi getting out just ahead of Adrian Fernandez. Everybody just trying to top off the fuel tanks, because they should be able to go through from here. They might be able to get through without stopping again. That's what they're looking at trying to achieve now.
That's right, but there's Cristiano just leaving his brake and getting in there too deep there. Look out, look, he just understeered off. There's absolutely no grip. The marbles out there, just like driving on ice. Yeah. The front of the car just slid straight into the wall. Absolutely nothing that D'Amata could do about it. How frustrating.
Had all the time in the world, but there was nothing he could do about it. Must have seemed like it went on forever. But even at real speed, let alone slow motion, I'm sure that to him it felt like it was going on forever, and absolutely nothing to do to get out of it. So our race leader is Gil de Ferran. Jimmy Vassar is in second. Montoya, and we've only just got over half distance. So once again, it's a short weekend's work for the Pac West crew. Very demoralising for them, and they just got the one more race. Well, 2 more races to go, but the big race at the end of the season, Fontana, which Blundell won a couple of years ago. they could certainly do with a result like that to boost their fortunes. So Blundell's car gets pushed away. Patrick Carpentier into the pits. So this should prove to be his final stop, but Patrick's a long way down the order. 19th place coming in.
Yeah, of course, he lost a couple of laps at the start of the race, so all was pretty much lost already for Patrick, and a lot of work going on there at the front of the car. And meanwhile, at the front of the field there is Gilles de Ferran, and we hear the pace car lights are out, so we'll be getting back to green pretty shortly.
Looks like a nose cone change for Carpentier. Trying to get the thing undone. Rehearse this regularly in the pits, the guys, but it's not a fast job to get it changed. So Carpentier losing yet more ground. Really, this race is all over for him. And in fact, they've killed the engine, perhaps intentionally. I don't know if there was another problem there. There may have been. And it looks as though it's all over.
I reckon, but absolutely no luck. And we're getting ready now for the restart. Some of these guys at the front of the field taking off in a pretty good lick. And what's interesting to me is that the two Patrick Racing cars, after making those second pit stops, are in 7th and 8th place. And we wonder now whether Gilles de Ferran is going to be able to reach the finish without making another pit stop. I doubt it very much indeed. Now that is interesting, isn't it? We've seen both Newman Haas cars in the pits. Michael Andretti threw away what would have been 5th or 6th place, is now down in 10th after stalling the engine. But here we go for the restart, and a heck of a lot of
Target Chip Ganassi cars brushing the wall out of turn 4. Looking back at Paul Tracy as he tries to bear down on Montoya. Not close enough to have a go this time into turn number 5. But what a race we're looking at here, and with those strategy calls, fascinating to see what happens towards the end of this race, because these leaders are going to have to stop again, I think. Certainly de Ferran. I think the two Target cars will have to stop, won't they?
Yeah, yes, I think they will, absolutely, and both the Penske cars as well, and probably the Team Cool Green entry in addition to that as well. So Newman Haas looking very good, and Patrick Racing, but I don't know, there's a long way to go. If there's a lot of yellows in the second half of this race, then maybe it will pan out in their favour. We shall see.
Yes, they will, I'm sure, need a few yellows to just help the fuel consumption. But let's just watch and see what happens. It's all going to play out before our eyes here in Houston. This beautifully sunny day. Just a little bit of cloud around today. We've had just about clear blue skies all weekend so far. It's been a gorgeous weekend, and not the sort of humidity that you might expect of Texas at any time of year. This weekend has been just about ideal weather-wise. And the fans here, good turnout of fans, plenty of Mexican fans